Hey guys, my name is Matimio, and welcome to another episode of Sunday Mailbox. This is a video series where you, the viewer, can submit your gaming-related questions, and then I will give my humble opinion on them. To get the formalities out of the way real quick, if you would like to submit your own question that could be featured in an upcoming episode, you can do so by leaving a comment down below, or by sending me a Facebook and Twitter message. The first question for today comes from Cody, and it is, what are your thoughts on the team killing aspect in Rainbow Six Siege? I think that something needs to be done to punish players who do this frequently, because while I realize they already have a kick mechanic, if you're playing in ranked and you kill your teammates multiple times, you're gonna get kicked from the server. Not only does this count as a loss, but you're also gonna have to wait a couple of minutes before you can play the game anymore. I don't think that it's severe enough. I think right now, even for ranked, it only locks you out for like 15 minutes, or even if it's just 30 minutes, that just doesn't seem like enough of a penalty. And so what I'm really hoping for, especially for someone who likes to play casual a lot, I'm crossing my fingers that they added a system that remembers players who do this frequently. I realize that there is going to be accidental deaths in Rainbow Six Siege because I'm someone who accidentally kills my teammates every once in a while. It's gonna happen in a game that has one-shot headshots with every single weapon, and also you can shoot through walls and accidentally get a headshot. It's going to occur every so often. That said though, if you are someone who is team killing every other round, you're getting a couple of team kills every single match, I feel like the game should start to remember this and punish you. Not only just to, if you're someone who's doing this on accident, to make you kind of think before you're shooting, realize what you're shooting at, but also to deter players who are doing it maliciously. CounterStrike has a decent system to stop this type of stuff. If you team kill in that game, it's going to notify you, hey, that was probably an accident, but you do that a couple more times, we're going to ban you for a couple of hours. You continue to do that often, it's going to ban you for like a week or more. That seems like a step in the right direction for Rainbow Six. And so I am right there with you. It is incredibly frustrating when we're playing ranked, or even on casual, to have an asshole ruin the experience for everyone involved. Not only for the people who are dying, but also people who are now going against one player on offense. Like, it's just not enjoyable for anyone, and I'm really hoping that Ubisoft takes the necessary steps to try and punish this type of mentality. The next question comes from Larry, and it is, do you think that the map in the Division is going to be large enough? I feel like a lot of gamers recently have the mentality that bigger means better in open world games. And if you don't have a bigger open world game than the last one, then that's just gonna be a worse game overall. And while there are some merits to this, Witcher 3 is a prime example. They went bigger and they absolutely went better. It was full of content, it was a gigantic map, but the key note here is that it was full of content. If Witcher 3 looked as amazing as it did, it had that gigantic continent for you to explore, but there was nothing to explore and do on it, the game would have suffered overall. On the other side of the coin though, if your map is too small and there's a lot of content in it, that can also kind of take you away from the experience. As much as I enjoyed Fallout 4, one of the small complaints that I had with it is that there was a lot going on in a very condensed area. You'd have a settlement, 5 feet away there'd be a raider camp. Another 5 feet away there'd be gigantic mutants that you would have to kill. And so while the content was accessible, it was very easy to find a lot of things to kill, one of my complaints with it was that it didn't feel more like a lived-in world and more like a carnival ride. And so I think that there is a balance that can be struck. Bigger does not always mean better. Smaller also, of course, doesn't always mean better. And it really just comes down to the game that they're trying to create. And so to answer your question, do I think that the Division is going to be large enough? It's hard to say at this point. I realize that's a little bit of a cop-out, but we just don't know based off of the content that is going to be in the game for the size of the city. And so while I'm not trying to defend the Division because it could be a steaming pile of crap, we have absolutely no idea, I feel like a lot of people obsess over the map size when really that doesn't make any sense in a game like this. I mean, if all of the buildings are explorable, they're not. But if a large percentage of them are, and you can also go into the tunnels and sewers, that map that may not be anywhere near as large as Grand Theft Auto all of a sudden has a lot more playable space that you can't really get a true representation in a map. And so I'm hoping that they're going to be able to cross that balance between map size and content, and if they're able to do that, I really don't care at all at how large the map actually is. The next question comes from John, and it is, do you think that the defender traps in Rainbow Six Siege should be less visible? Well, I'm assuming you're referring to Kapkan's gadget, because he's really the only one that applies here. And I know that there's been a lot of talk about upgrading his gadgets, but I don't know if I'm completely sold on that. I do know that there's a lot of good arguments for it. Right now, his gadget doesn't really secure a lot of kills, because while initially, when people were learning the game, he would get some cheeky triple kills out of nowhere, against experienced players, or anyone who's just played the game for a couple of hours, they start to learn not only the trap spots, but also what to look out for. And so while once in a blue moon you do see someone get a kill with Kapkan, a lot of people are gravitating on over to the other operators because their gadgets just serve more of a function other than just kind of slowing down the enemy when they get to certain doorways to shoot out the trap. And so a lot of people are asking, hey, maybe they should get rid of the red bolt or make it less obvious. Maybe they shouldn't have the red wire going across the doorway or the window. That could be a step in the right direction. And while I don't think that it would be the end of the world if they did make these adjustments, I have to ask the question, do we want to have traps being an easy or effective way at killing enemies? In my opinion, dying to Kapkan trap is more of just a frustration because it really didn't require a whole lot of skill on the part of the player who used the trap. And I know that the argument is like, well, why even have it in the game? And I kind of agree with you on this one. The first time that I saw Kapkan's trap, I either thought that it was going to be just stupid, frustrating, or it was going to be completely useless because people were going to start to realize how to counter it, and we've kind of landed in that category. And so I have to ask the question, what direction do we want to go with Rainbow Six Siege? Yeah, upgrading his gadget would make Kapkan more viable, it'd make that a little bit more interesting, but it's also just annoying to die to this gadget. Do we want people to be dying consistently to Kapkan's traps? Do we also want to slow down the gameplay significantly? Because when people realize there is a Kapkan on the enemy team, they're going to have to stare at doorways more often and slow the progression to even get near the objective. This is all things that we have to consider. And so I don't think it'd be the end of the world. Like I said, I just don't know if I'm completely sold on it because I would rather the game be more about the shooter mechanics, about outplaying your enemy in that regard, and less about the random or annoying deaths that come with Kapkan's traps. But of course, this is just my 2 cents. The next question comes from Johnny, and it is, what do you think if developers added in a feature to change the graphical settings on the PlayStation 4 and Xbox One? That way people can play the game the way they want to. Surprisingly, this is actually happening for some console games. It caught me completely off guard because I never thought that this would occur. The Division, during the closed beta, you could adjust certain settings for the Xbox One and PlayStation 4 to change the way that the graphics work so that you could have a better frame rates. If you want to have, the best graphics, but also play at 30 frames per second, you can do it. But if you want to adjust some things to maybe bump it up to potentially 60, that seems like it's going to be available. Personally, I think this is a great step in the right direction for console games out there because while I know that some people do not care at playing at 30 frames per second, other gamers out there, like me included, have a hard time, especially playing first-person shooters at that low frame rates. Currently, I'm running through Bloodborne on my off time. I love Bloodborne, but I went from Dark Souls 2, which ran at a solid 60 frames per second on my PC, and now I'm playing Bloodborne, which is at 30, and even dips down to stuff like 15 at some boss fights. Like, it can be a little bit ridiculous. And for me, it was a big adjustment. I even got headaches for like the first hour when I was playing because I just wasn't comfortable with that low frame rate. I know that some people are like, wow, you sound like a pansy, and that's okay. I might be a pansy, but there are gamers out there that just don't enjoy that low frame rate experience, and to be able to bump that up on the console is just gonna be good for consumers. If you wanna have the best graphical fidelity, nothing seems to be changing here. If you wanna have the best graphics, the highest resolution, then you're gonna be good to go, but I think having more options for the consumer is never gonna be a bad thing, and so I'm excited to see if more games are going to be developed with this in mind, because if they are, I think that's going to be amazing. But yeah, guys, that is about it for today's Sunday Mailbox. I hope you enjoyed. As always, if you would like to submit your own question that could be featured in an upcoming episode, you can do so by leaving a comment down below or by sending me a Facebook and Twitter message. But until tomorrow, guys, have a good one and take it easy.